at least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.
Number one is number one.
1,000 miles away from me. Hello and welcome to the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. My name is Ryan Lutz, joined as always by my brother and co-host Drew from Indiana today. Drew, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Back home, seeing some family. And speaking of family, we have our brother-in-law on today. Great leader in our community. Great offensive lineman back in the day, Mr. Cody Sears. Cody, how you doing?
Great, guys. Excited to be on the pod.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. And Cody's already been putting my son through some offensive lineman drills. So hopefully we've been shoving him protein bars and protein shakes down his mouth since he was a baby. So, and he's only 2 years old, but I'm just kidding. Nope, I'm just kidding. Probably shouldn't say that. This gets recorded. So if this is your first time tuning in, super glad to have you. Cody, super glad to have you on as well. We talk about three things here on the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast: faith, sports, and leadership. We kind of break it up into those three sections. In this first section, we are talking about faith. And because when this is released, this is the Friday before Christmas, I figured I would look at one of the most utilized Christmas verses and one of the verses from the Bible that actually shares a prophecy about the coming Messiah, Jesus. And it's from the book of Isaiah. Isaiah was a prophet, would hear from God, tell stories mostly about what is to come. And in Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9, this is oftentimes the verse that is utilized through churches. And so I'm going to read this verse, and then what I'd love to hear, Drew and Cody, both of your takes on just what the meaning of Christmas is to you beyond the Santa Claus and the reindeers and the cookies. What is the meaning of Christmas to you? And if you want to refer to this verse, you can, but if not, that's okay too as well. It's Isaiah 6:9. I'll read it once, and then Cody will throw it over to you and ask you what your thoughts are on the meaning of Christmas before going over to Drew. Isaiah 6:9 says this: "For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace." It's Isaiah chapter 6, verse 9. So, Cody, reading that verse and thinking of Christmas, which is coming up, to you, what does that verse mean, or what does Christmas kind of mean to you?
Yeah, I read this in preparation for the pod, and one thing that stood out to me was just thinking about the timing in which this verse was written. So the book of Isaiah is written, almost a millennium, 1,000 years before this prophecy is fulfilled and Christ arrives on earth, and just how incredible, that something that long ago was heard and written and then, actually happened. I made a joke to your sister, my wife, yesterday, and said, that would be like if 1,000 years ago somebody said there's gonna be this Michigan quarterback that gets drafted in the seventh round, and then he goes and wins 7 Super Bowls, and everyone's gonna be like, "What even is that? Like, what's a Super Bowl? And who's this?" Like, and then it happens. It's a pretty wild thing to think about. Not only just who this Savior is and who this child was, but the fact that it all happened exactly as it was portrayed that long ago.
Yeah, that's incredible to think about. It's a good analogy too, talking about Tom Brady, the greatest of all time to play football, Jesus, the greatest of all time to live, die, and resurrect. So, Drew, what about you? Meaning of Christmas, that Isaiah verse. Any thoughts?
Yeah, no, I thought about the timing as well. Pretty incredible. And just reading those words too, just kind of especially the Prince of Peace part, just remembering who Jesus is and who he was then, and who he is still today is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So that's kind of just a peace and kind of a calming remembrance of who Jesus is and what he's doing for us.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Both of you, good thoughts. For me, similar to the timing thing as well. With this season, it is an opportunity for us to look back at what God has done and reading through the Old Testament, the time before Jesus, the New Testament, the life of Jesus, the life after Jesus. We can look back and see what God has done, experience what God is doing right now, even sometimes when it doesn't feel like it, but help what He has done propel us and fuel us for what we believe that He will do. And I think what's really unique about Isaiah is, and like some of these prophecies throughout the Old Testament, prophets throughout the Old Testament, is they were looking at what God has done to give them faith and belief and confidence in what God will do, so much so that, yeah, like Cody, you were saying, years and years and years before Jesus even walked this earth, Isaiah was speaking with confidence that there was going to be a time that this guy was going to come. So I just think that that can motivate us, that maybe we're not all prophets like Isaiah, but we can look back at what God has done and help that fuel us to what we believe that He is going to do as well. So that's the faith section of the Faith Sports Leadership Podcast. Good insight from both Cody and Drew as well. Now we're going to be diving into the sports section. And before we dive into too much of Cody's career, I wanted to mention that the college football playoff is kicking off tonight as Notre Dame and Indiana play the first game here Friday night. And then tomorrow on Saturday, depending on when you're listening to this, the Saturday, we have three games. And so, as we head into the first ever 12-team college football playoff, we're going to give some thoughts and predictions that way. Before we do that, I want to give Cody the floor as an IU grad, but also a diehard Notre Dame fan. Let's hear your analysis and your thoughts heading into the Indiana at Notre Dame, traveling up to South Bend game happening Friday night.
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy matchup to have happen. I've had plenty of people ask who I'm pulling for in this one. I joke and say that IU took my tuition money, but Notre Dame stole my allegiance a long time ago. Being born and raised in South Bend, it was in my blood. So very excited for the matchup. I kind of hoped they'd be on opposite ends of the bracket so I could have two teams to cheer for. But it's making for great headlines, a good in-state rivalry, and it should be a lot of fun. I think that this game is a unique one for a number of reasons, but probably mostly because both teams have some similar strengths. They both have done pretty well at stopping the run and have been a little suspect at times against the pass. I think both teams have played some really bad passing teams on their schedule. So we haven't had many chances to see how they perform against good quality competition, but in the times that they have, they've looked a little suspect. So I think that Curtis Rourke is probably the best quarterback that Notre Dame's faced this season. I think the biggest, and as it is most of the time in these games, it's going to be offensive line play. And I think that IU against Ohio State struggled when they started to bring some different blitz pressures and looks. And I think that's going to be the key for Notre Dame, is to make him uncomfortable early and often. IU's going to have some sustained drives to score. I think Notre Dame's red zone defense is one of their strengths. I like the Irish in this one. I think it's going to be a good battle, especially early. I like a final score somewhere in the 31-17 range, something like that. I think that the Irish have a really good chance at running away with it if they can get a few turnovers. So that'll be the primary focus. And then additionally for IU, I guess, playing devil's advocate, they need to find a way to force Notre Dame to throw the ball.
Mm-hmm.
If they can keep Notre Dame uncomfortable, they don't. Notre Dame does not want to throw the ball to win this game. They want to keep the ball on the ground. They've got a three-headed monster with Love, Price, and Leonard, and that's really what it's going to come down to for the Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some really good thoughts. Look, last time I checked, the spread going into the game was Notre Dame by 7.5. So with your score prediction, you think they're going to cover. And so that was my initial thought as well while looking through the matchups. We'll go through each of the first couple of games, the Friday, Saturday games, then we'll give our prediction for who we think is going to win it all, just for fun. For me, the Notre Dame IU game, I was leaning Notre Dame heavy. I love Marcus Freeman. I think he's a really good coach. I think that the way that their defense has kind of come together, even amidst some of the injuries that they faced, and then you think about some of the players that might be coming back. Howard Cross is one that comes to mind. I think that they're a really dangerous team. But then I listened to the Joel Klatt show, who Joel Klatt's one of the Fox Sports guys, and he talked me into believing in the Kurt Signetti hype and the Curtis Rourke and the explosive offense. But then I come back and doing some more research, I just think that if Notre Dame can establish the run, which I think IU can stop the run. I saw them stop the run throughout the year, yeah, especially even against Michigan. I watched that game closely. If they can stop the run, I just don't know that they can like if Notre Dame runs a read option, you're going to be trying to stop Jeremiah Price. And then Riley Leonard's gonna like it's what Notre Dame's done so well throughout this year. I think that matchup for them. And then I think Riley Leonard's a better thrower of the football. He's getting a little more comfortable. So if he is forced to throw, I think because IU will bring so much pressure to stop the run, it'll open up some easier passing lanes. So I think IU wins. I don't think they cover. I think it's about or I think Notre Dame wins. I don't think they cover. I think it's about a 3 point game or something like that. Comes down to the wire. But I think the home team, Notre Dame at home, Marcus Freeman's going to get the job done. Drew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say Cody sounds like you got all the insight from Taylor because that's exactly what she told me. Sounded just like her. But anyway, I would say I think I have Notre Dame as well. A lot of the same reasons. I think, especially if weather, never know if it snows, the run game. I think Notre Dame's just gonna pound the ball. You can feel the buzz in the air already here in South Bend with the crowd. It's gonna be awesome, a great atmosphere. But I think I got Notre Dame in a close one. Getting the victory.
See, that makes me want to pick IU, but I won't go back on my word. So now we're moving to the Saturday slate. We'll start with the Penn State versus SMU game. SMU traveling up to Happy Valley. They are 8.5 point underdogs. We don't need to give a ton of analysis if you don't want, but who do you think is going to win between Penn State and SMU? Cody, we'll start with you.
I think Penn State rolls in this one. I was not impressed with SMU. I think the committee, in letting SMU in, did the right thing. They don't want to set a precedent to not allow a team playing in a conference championship to lose. You run the risk of teams opting out of those games. But I think that what I saw in that game was that SMU lost to a team that wasn't very good. The whole thought of, well, they came back and they made it a close game. If you come back against a bad team, it's not really something to hang your hat on. I think Penn State's going to roll in this one. I think it opened as a much larger line and it's gotten tighter, which always makes me a little nervous. It's like somebody knows something, but I'd feel comfortable with a minus 13 on this. I think Penn State's going to pretty well handle these guys.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I think something that James Franklin's team, since he's been in Penn State, has done is take care of the teams that they're supposed to beat, and I think that they're supposed to beat SMU. And so I mean, there's been some talk about Penn State's backup quarterback entering the portal before the playoff. Drew Aller is a good enough quarterback. Like they bring in Bo to every once in a while to get some running stuff in. So I don't think that's going to be a problem. I think Penn State covers. I think they take care of business. True.
I gotta go with SMU. Reason being, I picked them at the beginning of the year to be in the playoffs, and it was like our first episode, got made fun of. So I'm gonna stay with them. Although I do think Penn State could make a run in this playoff as well. So I'm gonna go with SMU though.
You have been on SMU since the jump. All right, moving to the 4 o'clock slate, we got Texas against Clemson, the battle of Texas high school quarterbacks and Cade Klubnik and Quinn Ewers. Texas opens up as 12 point, or right now is 12 point favorites in this game. Cody, who you got? Texas against Clemson.
I really want to pick Clemson in this one. It's hard to pick against Dabo in these situations. He just always finds a way. There was a quote that he had, when when Syracuse beat Miami and it pushed them into the conference championship, and he said, "Hey, we're the first three-loss team to make the playoff, and whatever it was, they were the first 13-0 champs." So he said, "Maybe we'll be the first three-loss team to win it all." So they're playing with house money, and that's a dangerous thing as a team. There's really no expectations on them. You can just go out, have fun. Their front, their front four is really good. I think Texas is going to struggle against it a little bit. I think Texas' offensive line is really good, and their front four is just as good. They're probably the best in football. But there's really no clear-cut number one this year. This isn't like last year where Michigan was definitely the most dominant team in football, and I hate to say it, but I will give it to you. So it is a pretty wide open field. I like Clemson in this one, just sneaking away. It's a risky pick, though, because the Longhorns are a good football team, and they are going to be hungry. They have a good position in this new bracket. If they find a way through this, and then moving past Arizona State, they've got a really good path um, to the semifinals. So I do like Clemson springing the upset, but it's going to be a late field goal.
Yeah, that's a good pick as well. I think Clemson's defensive line and just their defensive strategy, with Quinn Ewers kind of being banged up, battling through this ankle injury, some of the offensive line at Texas kind of being banged up as well. I could see them getting pressure on him, and he hasn't really been as mobile as he was at the beginning of the season. I could see Sark moving to Arch Manning at some point in the game just to add a little spark. But I got to go with, I think I'm going with Texas. I'd like the Clemson story, but I think this is kind of Sark's year to kind of really get things rolling for the Longhorns. So I got Texas winning kind of big, 14 points. Drew, what about you?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Texas, but late field goal as well, just going the other way. Um, I think there's been some questions with the quarterback as well, so we could see a change in the game, but I think Arch is a good enough quarterback to lead them. So I'm going Texas.
All right, and the last one is Tennessee traveling up to Columbus, Ohio to play the Buckeyes at the Shoe. Ohio State opens or is currently 7.5 point favorites. Cody, who you got? Tennessee at Ohio State.
Well, I know you guys are big OSU fans, so you're probably going to go with them. It's an interesting game. I don't think anyone thought this was going to be that good of a game until about a week ago when OSU lost or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, when they lost to Michigan. And so the question is, how does this team respond? That was their Super Bowl, as strange as it is. And so, they laid such an egg. Are they going to be hungry? Are they going to come out wanting to prove a point that wasn't the team, or is the locker room divided after a loss like that? And, you guys are college athletes. You know that sometimes in those locker rooms it can get pretentious after something doesn't go the right way. Um, I don't know that Ryan Day is the type of coach to unify the bunch. Um, I think it'll be an interesting game because Tennessee's on the opposite end. They're so excited to be here. A program that's rich in history that hasn't had much big success here lately. Heupel's a really good coach. I like him quite a bit. Um, I think that OSU is going to get it done at home. I just think again, it's like the most expensive roster in football. We've heard this. They've paid a lot of money to put this team together. I I think it would be hilarious if they lost at home. And Ryan Day, I mean, he just should just find his way out of the stadium on his own at that point because there's no chance he returns. But I do think there's just a talent gap there. And I love Tennessee's quarterback, Levi. I hope he stays at Tennessee. He's a really talented quarterback. But this kind of environment it is going to be tough to plan. So I like OSU to cover in this one, but I think it's going to be a close game throughout.
Yeah, that's good points. I think Ohio State's so much talent, and I could see them jumping off to a quick lead and just blowing Tennessee out of the water. I could see that happening. But I kind of have a feeling, and I don't know if it's my just hope being a Michigan fan or what, that Tennessee is similar to Clemson. They kind of feel like they're playing with house money. They have a young quarterback who hopefully sticks around and has a nice long career. They have some youth on their roster to where they can really build upon, and so they're kind of happy to be here. But that's kind of a dangerous place to be if you're Tennessee. And so I think Tennessee comes out. I think it's a high scoring affair, and I think they pull out the win. I'm interested to see if Ryan Day is the coach at Ohio State next year, or if it's going to be Mike Vrabel. So, Drew, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Ohio State. I think they're going to come back hungry. Kind of a reset. Playoffs. Here we go. They got the talent, so I think they're going to win by, let's say, 21 against Tennessee.
Wow. All right. So there you have it. Now, really quick, 5 second. Who you think is going to win it all? Cody, we'll start with you. National champion this year.
I'm going to go with the Homer pick, even though I don't think there's a shot we do it. I'm going to go with the Irish, but for what it's worth, my underdog pick is ASU. I think that team's just red hot. Again, talking about playing with house money and Scatavo. If you don't know the name, you will soon enough.
There we go. So Notre Dame or ASU will give you two. I had Oregon picked at the beginning of the year. I'm sticking with that. I still think they're the best team in football. Drew?
Give me the Mustangs, baby. SMU.
All right. Cool. All right. So with that, Cody, we'd love to hear a little bit more about you and your athletic career. So you played, you were a multi-sport athlete in high school, ended up going on to play in college, and then you also had a coaching, you coached high school as well. And so I'd love to hear kind of your playing background. What are some fun experiences on the football field at Bremen or over at St. Francis, and then some coaching memories as well. What made you get into that?
Yeah, went to Bremen High School, so smaller school gives you the opportunity to play multiple sports. I played three sports, but I really only played one. The other two, I was just happy to hang with my buddies and have something kept me in shape. Background of football. Got a little bit better at basketball in college when we used to run on the intramural courts, but yeah, I was just a tall, uncoordinated guy, so I didn't really know what I was doing out there. Um, Not certainly not like you guys, but yeah, I really enjoyed my time at Bremen. Had great teammates. When I went to St. Francis to play football, what I learned quickly is that that doesn't translate. You don't get to bring those guys with you. And so locker room culture was very different from what I was accustomed to, and didn't really fit me and my beliefs and how I grew up. So decided after that year to shop around again for colleges and ended up transferring to IU. So called my college career short, but ended up getting to work for the basketball team and football team at IU, which was great timing. We were number one in the country. I had Vic Oladipo and Cody Zeller, Jordy Holes, and a lot of talented guys there. Had some really cool moments. Really got to, know Coach Tom Crean through working the radio show, and really, really just couldn't have had a better experience at IU. But again, hope they get their tails beat on Friday night. So, but yeah, no, really enjoyed my sports career, and I think what was, most important to me in sports was getting to do it with people that I really grew to love and care about. All those guys are still close friends of mine this day, and just love getting to compete with them and grow with them and learn, lifelong lessons alongside those guys.
Yeah, that's great. And then you ended up doing some coaching as well. What kind of triggered that? What made you want to give back to the sport in that realm? And what are some things that you maybe miss about that aspect of your life?
Yeah, so when I did my student teaching, I'd originally always kind of had the passion to be a teacher. Went to school for that. Did my student teaching in inner city Chicago. Always thought, that was going to be the demographic of student that I worked with was somewhere in an urban environment. Always blew my mind. I had taught in Albany Park, which is the furthest northwest neighborhood within the city of Chicago. So any further west, you'd kind of be considered suburb. But Albany Park, talking to my kids, mind you, it would have been maybe a 20-minute ride on the L, but none of my kids had seen the water, which was crazy. They're in eighth grade and they'd never seen the lake. Like, I mean, you live that close, but that's just how integrated those smaller communities are, those neighborhoods are. And so it just made me think about different opportunities. And even, from there, I moved to South Carolina, took a teaching job there. And it blew my mind that we were an hour and a half from the beach. And every year we would do a spring break trip with the baseball team. And that was, for some guys, the first time they'd seen the ocean. And they lived that close to it. So it just, it helped me understand that, the opportunity to impact and really just broaden horizons of students in places of poverty is massive. It was cool to see, and I taught social studies, so it wasn't like I was helping kids, with math and things that probably a little bit more applicable in their life, but even just smaller things like figuring out a 5-paragraph essay and like clicking. It was pretty fun to see that. And I think teaching is one of those jobs where if you're a results-based person, you see it so much easier. And same thing with coaching. When you give that instruction and you see the results and you see it click, of like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And so as an offensive line coach in South Carolina. I taught at a school called Lake City High School. It's a very rural school, sorry. But we played in the beach region, which was a unique challenge because we basically had an hour 20 drive to every school within our region. Georgetown, Sockasty, Myrtle Beach, all pretty affluent beach schools, lots of talent. Drayton Arnold played there. Everett Golson, of course, was a Notre Dame quarterback. He was a Myrtle Beach grad. Hunter Renfro was the quarterback at Sockasty. Of course, now he's a slot receiver in the NFL. So a lot of talent in that area, and we went toe to toe with all of them for being a school that really didn't have the resources that they did. It was fun to be an underdog. It was fun to have that chip on our shoulder. It was fun to see, affluent teams come into Lake City and see our stadium that was a little bit run down and maybe a little like, whoa, where are we? Deer in the headlights look. And it was a really cool experience. I love that community. They are very passionate about um, who they are, Lake City pride, Lake City strong. And so it was really cool to get that experience. And I love getting to build relationships and I mean, at a year early age for me, I was 21, 22, learning how to, earn trust. I think that's a big thing. We're going to talk about the leadership, but trust is earned, not given, especially in communities like that. And so it was really cool for me at a young age, learning how to relationally build trust and get people to believe in you. And then, when you as a leader are believed in, people do just about anything you ask. And that's a powerful thing to control, but it's also what drives the best results when there's buy-in and people are sold on an idea or concept. So yeah, I loved it. I could talk for days about it, so I'll cut myself off.
No, that's great. And I love that insight. And even that, you kind of hit on a question that we ask a lot of our guests is how sports kind of shaped you. And you kind of shared like it's kind of been a part of not just like the touchdowns or the 3 pointers, but like that's not really what shaped you is the relationships. So that's really cool to hear. And then now where you're at, I mean, you are working in the corporate type world, pursuing excellence in what you're doing, and that type of thing. And so how have you found in your current role, in your current like workplace environment where you're not necessarily seeing you talk about results oriented, you see the results with the kids and stuff like that. How have you been able to blend like your faith with your pursuit for excellence in your workplace and that type of stuff? How have you kind of been able to blend that?
Yeah, I think it's a different type of competitive nature. I'm in sales, so we are driven by numbers, and this is what this particular brand is doing, and this is where you sit. How do you grow those things? How do you um, build investment from different dealers to get them excited about product, to want to sell it more, to getting individual salespeople to want to pitch your product and show it to other people. So I think again, it's relation building. It's just trying to identify with people and build them around the common cause that you're trying to push. And it's difficult. It's something that we actually have another guy who works on me at the team here who used to be the head coach at South Bend St. Joe, a local high school here for football. He coached football for a long time, and he tells me all the time, you have to keep the coach mindset. No matter how many times you get rejected or told no, doesn't matter how many games you go 0 for 7 from beyond the arc, you got to get back out there, and shoot more. Not that I ever you ever had an 0 for 7 game. I don't think you just want to keep shooting till you had one, but you get the idea. It's just you just got to keep pressing on. You got to keep pushing, and eventually it goes in. And then sometimes you get on a little roll, and it's good. So it's funny how sports and life just kind of line up in that way. So yeah, it's just that determination of just keep firing, and eventually it goes in, and then you obviously need to lift up praise where it's due. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're going to head into our leadership section. Drew, I'll kind of let you run with these last couple questions and ask Cody them. Cody, I've loved the insight so far. It's been really cool to hear this side and have you share this type of stuff.
Yeah. So as we go into leadership stuff, obviously, Cody, you've been a leader stepping into our family as well, but you lead in the workforce and your family as well growing up, hearing from your brother, your sister, just So I want to ask you a couple leadership stuff. So what are you learning about leadership today?
Yeah, I think again, it's about building trust. Um, when you say you're going to do something, do it. And as much as you can, just try to build relationships and be compassionate toward others. I think there's a lot of leaders who I've had in my life who sometimes you get frustrated by a decision they make, or you question why they might do something, and oftentimes the root of it is that I didn't have as much faith in that person as a leader to begin with. So it's easier to question those things. Whereas if some of the leaders that I've had in my life who, I really admired and looked up to, they could have just made a terrible call. But, I trusted them as a person. And so I was going to follow through with it regardless. Um, so yeah, I think really just for me, it's about building those relationships, creating trust, and then over time, that's when those results start to show.
For sure. And then maybe something different, like advice for a younger leader, maybe like myself, or people starting in the workforce or coaching or whatever it might be. What would be some advice you would have for a young leader?
Yeah, six-letter word, most important word I've ever learned. Right, listen. That's about as important as it gets. My grandma told us when I was younger, you have two ears, and one mouth for a reason, right? That ratio should be how you equate it to real life. And I think listening, me trying to now lead a family, listening to my wife and hearing her needs and her thoughts on things, because we don't always line up. We have differences and opinions, and she sees things differently than I do sometimes, and that's okay. But we're going to talk through those things, and I need to be able to listen, process, and then work with her on compromises and an understanding of, okay, here's how we'll handle this in the future. Here's how we'll do things together, or, things like that. So I think listening is just the most important and underrated step of being a leader, because you think a lot of times as a leader, you're giving commands, you're giving direction, you're showing the way. But in listening, that's really where you're going to get the best results. When I used to work at Johns Hopkins in the summertime at a camp, and you know, there was this one period where we got reviews, and I thought I was doing a great job. It was my first year as the dean there, so I now had a staff of 23 people underneath me. They were all pretty young. They were still in college for the most part. And among the guys, I had great reviews. Among the girls, my reviews were terrible. That I was hostile and abrasive and short. And I was like, I went to the site director, my boss at the time. I said, "What is this about?" And he said, "How often do you just give authentic praise to someone, or just give a smile rather than just kind of your resting face?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fair." And I kind of walk around and take note, but I wasn't one to praise quickly or give authentic praise. And so um, just learning to listen to feedback and make changes to better lead. So again, that's all stems from listening. Being able to make changes and adapt comes from being willing to recognize your shortcomings and shortfalls.
Yeah, for sure. Would never guess that review with knowing you these past couple of years, man. You're always giving praise and smiling. So
Yeah.
who are some leaders that have shaped your leadership?
Yeah, I thought about that. There were a few people who stand out to me. At a young age, growing up, I had an defensive line coach named Coach Campbell, and Sean. Just an awesome energy to him. He brought that energy every day to practice. And I took it to when I coached. I'd say, as soon as the whistle blew from warmups, it was like, all right, here we go, Biggs. Let's get to it. It's like, keep that energy, keep it high. So I always loved the energy they brought. He taught me that. The guy that I just mentioned, the guy who gave me feedback at the camp, his name's Raleigh Nuzzy. Awesome guy, just an incredibly intelligent person, who taught me quite a bit about just how to carry myself around others as a leader, and how to talk and motivate others authentically. It's funny, and I touched on it before, but just like the number of people who would probably stay in their current positions at work if they just received the smallest amount of regular praise. Because oftentimes that's all we're looking for, some admonishment, some recognition that is authentic. You're doing a really nice job. I liked how you handled it. I like how you did that. And it takes so little to say, but it can mean so much to someone in terms of building that relationship, building that trust, so that when there is a bigger ask, when there is something tougher, they're willing to work with you on it. So those two people stand out to me. My dad, just in terms of relationally, how to communicate with people, and just making everyone feel like they're important and loved. I think that's something that no matter who the person is, whether they're a little nerdy or a little sports jock or whatever it may be, I love all kinds of people. I think the stranger or otter you might be, I'm more drawn to that person to talk to them and want to know, why are you the way that you are? And so I think that my dad's kind of been that guy where he never met a stranger on an elevator. Every person he comes in contact with, he chats with. And so there is something to be said about just being friendly, being genuine to others, because we live in a world that's increasingly colder to one another. So just being a light, always just being joyful and sharing with others. We laugh at my dad sometimes, but there is something refreshing about that, where it almost looks uncomfortable today, and it feels uncomfortable because it's not the norm anymore. But the warmer and more kind we can be, the more we show that love of others to Christ, because the more different we are, the more different we look in a way that is welcoming and inviting. People want to know, well, what makes that person different? Why are the way that you are? So it's just living with that joy, which is something my wife does a really good job of, by the way. I got to give her a shout out.
Well, there you go. And as your wife's favorite brother, I appreciate you giving her a shout out. And so, and I also appreciate when you said nerd and sports jock, you looked directly at me when you said nerd, and right at Drew when you said sports jock. So appreciate that one as well. Cody, it's been a great pleasure having you on. It's cool to hear your story. You have a unique journey, unique story. Super glad you're a part of our family, but also super glad that you one day are going to raise kids that are Michigan fans. So for all of those of you who are listening, go back and listen again, because there's some really good tidbits of information and inspiration. Super glad you tuned in. Hope you have a very Merry Christmas whenever you're listening to this. On behalf of our guest, Cody, on behalf of Drew, and on behalf of myself, thank you so much for joining us. Go be a light, friends, and have a wonderful day.
At least mom will be listening.
So if you bring up Counter Stallions, we're just not going to listen to you.